Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. Today, as we are here in the thick of December, we're heading into Christmas. We just finished Thanksgiving. I want to address a conversation that may be top of mind for a lot of families, which is what do we do when other families come to visit our house during the holidays? You just finished Thanksgiving. Some of you had friends over, some of you had family. And not everyone agrees on how tech should be used and what that should look like. So let's get some basic ground rules in because it gives you a couple week running start as you get ready for the Christmas season and friends and family coming over, Christmas break starting. How are we going to manage our tech well when people come over, when kids come and visit, when they bring tech from their own environments into our environment? And we're going to do this starting with the assumption that everyone is doing this well. By that, I mean, everyone is ensuring that the tech they're using is safe. Everyone is ensuring that that safe tech is a healthy fit for that child in this season. So their reset is healthy and it's going well. And they have boundaries and hedges built around this technology, meaning they've assessed this child is ready. They know that this tech is a good choice for this child in this season, and they're making sure that it's still producing good fruit. So we're going to start with that because if you don't start with that assumption, then the conversation is a dead stop right there. Like if you know this tech is a bad fit, then that's your conversation. You just go, hey, this tech is a bad fit. It's unhealthy. We can see it in this child. We don't need to move any further with figuring out how to make this work because it's a dangerous situation. We're not going to bend over backwards to put ourselves at risk. So the reason we start with the safe assumption is, hey, if it's not safe, go ahead and talk about that. And if it's not a good fit in this season for this child, talk about that. And you can be saying your child, you can say, hey, you know what? That might be okay for your kid, but not my kid. And then third and finally, if you can see bad fruit coming for this, like, hey, we love hanging out with you guys. And when that tech is involved, it always goes sideways. Like that's your talking point. So right off the bat, we've got an easy hard stop for the most toxic and unsafe situations. Like we're just going to send the kids upstairs to the cable internet for 10 hours because we want to talk down here. Like that's a bad decision. Don't do that. Now we're going to assume we've done that. This family is being safe and intentional on their end. We're being safe and intentional on ours, but we still don't line up. They're going to bring Nintendo Switches. They're going to bring Xboxes. They're going to bring movies we don't agree with. They're going to play games on the consoles we do play that we don't let happen in our house. They don't have the same expectations for where they play their games. They don't have the same expectations for when. Or maybe they do and just no one said it. And it's the holidays and sometimes we get busy and we have a good time and we're baking downstairs and we didn't notice the kids ran off with their device. So that brings us to where does this conversation begin? It begins with assuming the best about the other person and then using that as the basis for our conversation. Now, with our conversation, if we've moved beyond that, what do we do with our children? We're going to make sure with our family that we have our safeguards. Okay, so we then communicate those. So we're going to go to our family and we're going to make sure we have relationally connected. We're going to go to, I said family, but family or friends, whoever's coming over to your home, or if you're going to their home, sharing your expectations. This is hard and there's no way around it. Like, let's just be very clear. I'm saying this like it makes tons of sense because it does make sense. This is what needs to happen, but not that it makes tons of sense and it's simple. When you go to someone else's house and then you step in and say, these are my tech expectations for my kids, like that's really uncomfortable. I've had to do this. This is the same conversation you have when a child just goes to a friend's house to play. Hey, who's going to be home? What are your expectations with their tech? And like, here's what I've told my child he or she can participate in, right? Can't use a smartphone. We have this before kids. All right. So can't use a smartphone, step one. We did this before a basketball tournament. Just recently. Going to a basketball tournament, I was out speaking and I had other things. He's going with a friend. And the expectation was if someone pulls out a smartphone at this tournament, because your friends are old enough to start getting them, we know that they're out there. If someone does that, you walk away. And if you see something that makes you uncomfortable or something we've talked about that's unsafe, image-wise, content-wise, you go and tell a caring adult. And they will let us know, and they will process that with you. We know who's there at the event. We're sending you intentionally with these people. It's an uncomfortable conversation, sure, with your kid, but it's your kid. What really gets uncomfortable is, as I mentioned, going to a neighbor's house. And you now have to say, hey, I know that this is a game my son has come and asked me if he can play with you. We don't let him play that game, right? Are you guys okay with that? And when we send him over, we just have to know. And if you're okay with that, awesome. Like, we would love him to play at your house and play with your kids because you're amazing people and people we value and want our kids to be around. But that tech isn't. So like, can we give that up when my kid's there? And if yes, phenomenal. If no, you're welcome to come to our place. They can play in the cul-de-sac, whatever the answer might be. We can meet at a third-party location, neutral site, go to a park. But like, that conversation needs to happen. And it's no different than when you're going to someone else's house for a holiday. So you're going to go there for Christmas Eve, and you know that they have video games that are not games you play, or that they have systems you don't do, or that they just don't have the same time expectations. And again, assuming they're doing it right and there's nothing you're correcting about their parenting, you're coming in with your kids, not their kids. And you're going to say, hey, just so you know, like, my kids can't play that game. Is there a way we can manage this? Is there a way we can put boundaries around it? We can put it away. Can they do a different activity? Can we make that not happen for this evening? That's the conversation. The relational piece is first and foremost. First with your kids. You have to have talked about this with your kids. So the example of what we did at the basketball tournament, it's not bulletproof, but it's more important than being bulletproof. It's relational, so that if and when a mistake happens, either by my child's choice or something in his environment that happens around him or to him, he knows who he can run to first, because he knows that we're not just worried about him not making mistakes. We're worried about his heart and recognizing when mistakes are made and what we do with those. This is why it's gospel tech, not just better tech or safer tech. Both names that we thought about, but gospel tech, because we want the truth of the gospel, this idea that we're sinners in need of a savior, and that even when mistakes happen to us, or we do them on purpose, there's still only one response. We run with them to the Lord. We do that beautiful Psalm 51 where David realizes his sin and he says, I see my sin and that it's against you, and I know that I need you to wash me clean. Like, help me, Lord, with my heart, or help me, Lord, with the brokenness of this world. Both are still the Lord's purview in us. So without getting too far into that, that's the gospel. The good news that we need a savior is the reason the relationship is first. Then from that, we come back to our kids. All right, so our kids, we have expectations. We have the relational hedge built. We do need to make sure that there's some safe boundaries with the tech that our children might be bringing or might be using. So at your home, make sure your hedge is up. If you're inviting people over to your house, make sure your Wi-Fi has boundaries and that you're not allowing guests to join it. If you want to know how to do that, you can watch a Griffin. You go to, griffinconnect.com. Wow. Forgot it there for a moment. Or you can go to Bark Home. So it's bark.us and then click on their products, Bark Home. Both of those are devices that allow you to set up a hedge around your home network, so your Wi-Fi connection. And that means that people can't bring in a burner device. This is a device that goes dead. It no longer has cell connection because someone upgraded, but it's still laying around the house and a kid grabs it and hands it to your kid and is like, here, you can use this to listen to that music you want to listen to, or whatever it might be. That's a good intention. And originally, it's not always nefarious, but inevitably those things are very difficult to track. They're very difficult to find until things have gotten so bad that you're actually seeing the damage spill over into the rest of their life through a reset or through other, through a reset in maybe one or more areas of their reset. So that's why I have Wi-Fi hedge. You can actually block, say, nope, no one can join this without permission, basically. Which is awesome. Even if they have the password, they still have to get cleared by your Griffin router. I like that feature for family events because it allows you to be a really intentional gatekeeper. So aunt and uncle can still join, but the Nintendo Switch or the burner phone or the Xbox console or the Kindle reader, or like whatever the internet capable device is that wants to connect to the internet, that is another way. Or you can just change your password to something new and just dole out the new password to people. Those are both options. But you do want to make sure your Wi-Fi has a hedge. And then you want to make sure that you're intentional in the conversation with the people attending. Like, hey, just so you know, this is when we use our technology. This is where we use our technology. And this is the technology we will be engaging. So that has to be said, your family expectations, if you're the host. You're coming into the house. Again, you're not setting those parameters for other people. You're assuming they have safe and healthy parameters. You might ask them what their parameters are and then say, hey, just so you know, for my kids, this is our expectation. You don't have to have everyone at the event, by the way, on the same page. Find one part of your family who can agree with you. I've been blessed with siblings who all are on the same page right now. We don't have any video games right now in our lives, no consoles. I've mentioned before, Owen might play something, and Henry both play Prodigy. There's multiple parts of the family that use the programming from MIT called Scratch, which you can make a video game. And then the rule is you can play the video games you've made. But we're not just allowing free internet play. We're not allowing limitless console play. That's an awesome agreement amongst families. So there's a norm now, which means if another kid comes in and goes, all I want to do is play video games, you have 3 other families who go, that's not what we do. And then you move on, because that's the norm is now in your favor. And that's so powerful. Even if you can just get one other family to set a norm by yourself, right? You're that old awesome YouTube video of like the one crazy person dancing. 2 of you've now got a movement and like you've got momentum. So find that one other family at this event. If you know it's going to be what I would consider a hostile parenting environment where they're actively fighting against your good decisions and the way their house is set up and the decisions they make for their family. We'll get back to that in a minute, because that's, again, beyond. We can no longer assume they're doing their best. But we have our tech hedges set up. We've had the conversations of what's going to happen at our house. And then finally, we're going to plan for the awesome stuff we want to do instead. This is not a conversation of how can we be as combative as possible about our tech. We just want to make sure it's known. We have to be relational. We have to have boundaries around our wireless internet because it's smart TVs and everything else. And then we have to have some expectations for tech. This is when we use it. This is where we use it. And this is what we allow to be used. These games, not those ones. These shows, not those ones. This amount of time during this part of the day. Not just whenever you find the moment, but like, hey, we're going to play video games. We're going to watch a silly Christmas movie. Like, we're going to do this stuff at these times, and then we're not going to do that stuff. And that's what we want to make sure we have a good plan for. What's the not going to do this stuff going to be? And that is, maybe you're going to bake as a family. Maybe you're going to play some silly games, sing some songs, read a book together, like whatever your thing is as a family, have a plan for that. Better than having just a lockdown technological environment is to have an environment that is so amazing that people won't be constantly drifting back towards their tech. They'll want to be engaged. And that might sound Pollyanna, right? So like pie in the sky, like inaccessible. But I will tell you, as a middle school teacher for a decade, I regularly had kids show up for board game club. Regularly. And a second club that we called ILOSA, which was named by a student. It meant the International League of Super Acquaintances. I think it's a SpongeBob reference. I've never actually looked it up, but I didn't make the name. So in those 2, the rules were you couldn't be on your devices. You had to treat others with respect, and you had to be engaged with the other people there. The first was a board game club. The second was a club where we talked about video games. What are they enjoying to play? What are they excited for coming out, right? But like ways to engage kids on the farthest fringes. These are not kids who are showing up for regular sports. The kids come into this, and we'd have anywhere from 8 to 20, depending on the week. And with those consistent groups, now these are the guys who all came are now dudes. They're all in their early 20s, still have regular communication with them, and the relationships are still there. What's important to know when we're talking about this is that we are establishing opportunities to be known relationally, and kids show up for that. Yes, you make a cool plan to bake reindeer cookies or do whatever that thing is you saw on YouTube or TikTok or like whatever the activity is. People will set down their tech and participate when there's an intentional plan that's relational and joyful. They will walk away from tech. I asked kids, when you go home, what are you going to do? Play video games. How long? Until I go to bed. What does that mean? Like, these kids are telling me they're playing 6 to 10 hours of video games a day. Why aren't you playing today is my next question. Like, you could have gone home an hour and a half early and done that. And they're like, yeah, but I'd rather be here. Like, if this was more often, I would be at this. I only game when I don't have other awesome things to do. And that is really important, including a young man, 22 now, who I just saw, and he's gainfully employed. And he's, praying for the Lord to show him his will. But he's like, honestly, like, I work a job that I don't think has a future, and I game in my free time when I'm not working out. Like, that's all I do because I don't know what else to do with my life. So that if that's true for 20 somethings and it's true for 14-year-olds, I promise it's true for this Christmas season at your home. Have a plan for something to do. It doesn't have to be fancy or expensive. It does have to be relational and intentional. It can be plain Uno. It could be the rock, paper, scissors. It could be Christmas caroling. It could be baking. And go back to your analog adventures episode if you want more ideas on what to do. But just know that you do need to have a plan for that. It's not just about having the perfect technological barrier set up. All right. So in review, you are going to, when people are coming to your house, you're going to make sure you've set clear expectations with your family and that you have done the three important things: made sure the tech is safe, made sure your child is healthy and ready in this season, and made sure that the fruit is good. So you've done those three. That's awesome. You also are going to be flexible and recognize, hey, you know what? Christmas is a different season and it seems like you're getting overstimulated or you're getting fixated or you're whatever that might be. We're going to take this tech away. It takes a month to reset an overstimulated brain. So a month is how long the tech should go away for. But maybe you want to prove it season and go, you know what? Maybe it's just a bad week. We're going to go 3 days, a week, whatever it is. That's fine. Just know that when it's actually overstimulation, it's a full month. And that's Anna Lembke wrote Dopamine Nation. She's a psychiatrist out of Stanford. So that's our conversation with our kids. We have that intentional reach out with the family we're going to go to. Hey, just so you know, or before you, what's our expectations with tech when we're there? And if they go, you know what, we haven't even thought about it. Cool. Now we've checked those first 2 boxes and we can start there. Maybe it's not safe, or maybe our kids aren't ready, or maybe the fruit isn't good. And that's say, hey, you know what, this is our expectation. Would that be all right? If you're running into a hostile environment, you find one other family to be on board with you and fight that good fight, because you want Christmas to be what it's about, recognizing God's work in Jesus and sending his son, not the manifold distractions that are available to us, and some of the terrible things that come from that. Pornography exposure is a real danger during the holiday season because you're getting around tech and around people and around boundaries that are not online with your family, and you want to be intentional with that, because while exposure to pornography is not the end of your child's value or purpose, it's a harder road to hoe than if you could avoid it. We would really, really like there not to be that kind of damage and heartache. Asking families if they have accountability baked into their, whether it's Bark or whether it's Covenant Eyes, into their devices that these kids are going to be using is a big thing. Asking them and then receiving, no, we haven't done that. We know that this tech isn't safe. We're not actively putting up boundaries, then gives you the parenting response, and finding that one other family to do that with you so that you guys can go in and go, great. Well, while your kids do that, our kids are going to go play Nerf. Our kids are going to go run outside. Our kids are going to do whatever the activity is that we can think of. And sometimes that just means be bored and think of something to do for fun. That's not my go-to. I don't start there, but that is better than engaging in damaging and traumatic technology. So just know that boredom is miles ahead in terms of your child's long-term potential and mental health, their need for future mental support and care. Boredom is not going to hurt them. Pornography will. Graphic, horrific video games that celebrate death and destruction will. And nefarious content that sends messages that lie to your child about their purpose and their value will also cause damage, where boredom won't. So opt for boredom if you have to, but don't lean into that too soon. Maybe come prepared with your own activities for the family. All right. So that's our short version here heading into the holidays. I hope that this was encouraging and helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, Nathan@gospeltech.net. If you would like to follow us or find any other resources, tell friends about us at Love God Use Tech on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And on Instagram specifically is where we've begun building out our highlight buttons. So if you go there just through a browser or through the app, you will find little highlight buttons. I'm going there, and we've begun intentionally. The board encouraged me strongly to start doing this because we know that people go to Google before they go to God. It's very human that we just want answers quick. And we want to make sure that there are high quality resources for them. So that's what our Instagram resources are doing, despite it being on Instagram. Anyway, yes, I get the irony that we're talking about healthy tech and I'm posting things on Instagram. So those are some resources. And then you can join us next week as we continue this conversation about how we can love God and use tech.